Hey, what's up, family? I'm super excited today. We focused on emotional currency from a different lens. We had guests from Busey Bank here with us today, and I want you to really listen in as they share some important information that's going to be helpful. I believe it can literally change your life. So pay attention to the discussion. Feel free to comment. Let us know how this blessed you. But we're excited to have Busey Bank representatives with us. So they're going to introduce themselves with more information based on how they want to introduce themselves. But to my left is Louisa Gomez, Vice President of Community Banking and Development Manager. Can we give it up for her? To her left is Mary Etrick, Estate Settlement Specialist. Can we give it up for her? To her left is Bridget Meacham, Senior Vice President, Treasury Management Executive. Y'all know Bridget, huh? Y'all know Bridget. All right. And then to Bridget's left is Tim Spears, Assistant Vice President of Commercial Portfolio Management. So thank you all so much for being here this morning. This is different for us, just like it's different for you. We have some people online. So for those of you online, we're so excited that you tuned in. If you're in a different state, we think some of the information can be applicable no matter where you are. Even if it's not a Busey Bank, we just want to provide information so you can go into whatever bank you prefer and raise some questions. For those of you who are in the audience, we're going to eat pancakes after all of this. So just try to stick with us. But our goal simply today is just to learn about some of what they do and some of the services they provide here in the local community. And then we'll have the opportunity immediately following service to be able to talk to them just in case we have some additional questions that we may want to ask them, more specific questions that we may want to raise. So we're excited about that. So I want to begin just by asking again, just for you to elaborate on your role and kind of share your motivation. What motivates you to do what you do and help people grow in financial literacy?
Good morning, and thank you. I'm Louisa Gomez, like Pastor so graciously introduced me as, and in my role, in my capacity, I have a unique role at Busey. Being the VP of Community Banking, I'm not in a traditional branch. I actually am housed inside what's called the Busey Bank Bridge Center, and what that is a financial literacy hub. And we offer financial literacy workshops inside our space, but we also go out into the community. And what motivates me to do this work is because I am invested in community. Yeah. Today I brought my 11-year-old daughter right there. Cool. And that's my motivation. Yeah. My motivation to do that is because as a community, we need to have these kind of conversations where we're talking about what finances is, because finances can relate to so many different aspects of our life. Yeah. And so for me, I would feel remiss if I did not give back the knowledge and the wisdom that I'm learning in this capacity and in my compassion for others. And that's how I'm able to do the work, and that's what motivates me. So not only that 11-year-old sitting over there, but this entire audience, everyone online, that's what motivates me, because we can all gain valuable knowledge and insight.
Thank you so much.
I am Mary Etrick. In my later 30s, I went to law school and fell in love with estate and trust planning. Then, some 35 years later, I retired from full-time work for a large regional bank's trust department. I began work part-time for Busey after that as an estate settlement specialist and consultant, as you said. I also help bank staff and clients with estate and trust planning and trust interpretation. It's a little complex out there sometimes, you know. One of the things that I'm especially passionate about is coaching people, teaching people, helping people to understand and develop a greater understanding of financial and estate planning, to simplify their lives. Thank you. Too many people are unaware of the good things that good estate planning can do for them and their families. And the sad results from poor planning too often become familiar in the course of estate settlement after a person has died. How much better to learn and plan ahead of time than leave behind a messy estate plan that ends up being troublesome to the ones we love and the ones we meant to benefit.
Yeah. Thank you. Love it.
Well, good morning, church. As Pastor mentioned, I'm Bridget Carter Meacham. I am the Senior Vice President of Treasury Services in Bloomington and Peoria. What do I do for Busey? I do a little bit of everything. I'm all around. I connect everybody with everybody. But one big thing that I do is I give back. And what do I give back? I am the glue to everyone. These young people on the stage today, I'm so happy to have them here to let them know that this is what we need to be doing more for our community. Yeah. And filling in that gap and being that resource to you all. I'm helping people build their credit, get their first mortgages, get their first car loans, figure out how to send their students off to college. That's what I do. But more so, my job every day is to help people manage their cash flow. But my boss always tells me, you're doing everything else, Bridget, but what you're supposed to do. But you know what? I still make the bank money and they keep me for 25 years. But I say all that to say is my passion is giving back because someone gave back to me. And with them pouring that into me, that's what I do, and that's what I'm proud of doing. So thank you for having us today.
Pleasure, pleasure.
Good morning, and yes, thank you for being also so welcoming to us this morning. My name's Tim Spears. I'm a commercial portfolio manager. What that means is I work directly with businesses, business owners, helping them with all of their banking needs, but especially deposits, loans, and making sure that their businesses are ran successfully. Okay. But yeah, similar to Bridget and everyone else up here, I love giving back. I think our education system does a great job at teaching math and geometry and biology, but they kind of fail us on financial literacy. And so I think we have to, So we have to turn to members of our family, our friends, and our community to get that education. So I'm here to just try and pass what little knowledge I have on to our community members.
Yeah, so give it up for Tim, right? So I typically go off script, so forgive me for that. But Tim, we were talking in the office, right, about how we make financial decisions, and you had some insight to share that we both agreed upon. So I said I'll let Tim share it first, but I think it's an important point to make even before we start the discussion.
Yeah, kind of what, thinking about this, whether it's stores that you go to, advertisers, marketing online, their goal is to get you to spend money unconsciously. If you're not thinking about it, you're going to spend emotionally, you're just going to turn over your credit card, your cash. And as Pastor and I were talking, you need to be conscious of that, be aware of that. And is this, what I'm spending money on, is it a need or is it a want? And so I think that's kind of the gist of the conversation we had this morning.
That's good. That's good. So tell us a little bit more about some of the financial tools that you have available at Busey and how they could benefit not only those in person, but those online. And anyone can jump in.
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. So I'll talk about what the Bridge. So I can talk about what the Bridge Center has to offer.
And where's the Bridge facility located?
It is located on 2120 Southwest Adams Street. So we're right on the south end of Adams, and we're where the old Southside Bank used to be at, and we're housed in there. And I'm going to talk about what we got over there. So we have, it's a building, it's a brick and mortar, And the concept of the bridge is that everything that we can do inside the building, we can do outside in the community. So we're bridging and we're connecting communities. We do financial literacy. That's what we do. That is what we do when we roll it out. We can take a person from how to even start talking about what a budget looks like, to credit scores and reports, what does that look like, to how to buy a car, how to consider home ownership, how to plan for retirement, investing. We have a complete catalog and portfolio. And the best thing about it is all these services are free.
Say that again.
Oh, they're free.
Just wanted to make sure we heard that.
And we feed you too.
And food.
Yeah,
free and food. Okay. All
But
right.
what we do is we work with like nonprofits, for-profits. We work with community stakeholders, with businesses, governmental agencies, and it's really about being that connector about how we do this and what we do. And we talk about some of our portfolio products that we have. And I know I noticed on your website you had a home ownership. Yeah. So one of the things we have is we have a portfolio product that if anyone is considering home ownership, we work with people who might not, might be working on their credit, might not be right where they need to be to qualify for the traditional loans. What we have is a My Community Home Loan. And what that does is we can work with people with non-traditional methods of income. We're able to take say rent payments, a Netflix bill, you're getting, making any type of payment, you're able to show consecutively on that, and we're able to get people into homes who traditionally would not have access to that. And we're, and we're also working with our Hispanic community as well, because this loan portfolio is applicable for those individuals who hold I-10s. So any undocumented individual also has access to this financial freedom that comes through home ownership. I'll stop.
Give it up.
And that freedom, we understand, is creating that generational wealth. Like Mary, and I'm going to pass this on to Mary right now, because that home ownership and planning for that, in the midst, we're able to leave something for our children. And earlier someone said, not just monetary, but holistically. What are we leaving our children? What wisdom are we leaving them? And that's what the Bridge is doing. We're not just talking about products and doing these workshops. We're really talking about how holistically you can prepare for that next stage in your life. And so talking about that home ownership and planning for retirement, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Mary to talk about what Busey does on that aspect.
You are a hard act to follow. Goodness. Retirement planning, financial planning, planning for those final days when you go to God is much of what I do, particularly in terms of the documents that need to undergird that. We're all pretty, most of us are pretty unfamiliar with those. So I'm gonna leap ahead just a little bit and talk about the things that are important to protect those things that you've built. And that often usually includes, probably ought to include, a will. Now, a lot of folks say, I don't have enough to leave to anybody, I don't need a will. Well, here's the thing. Wills do a fine job of passing on assets, and sometimes they do a fine job of passing on those that we love to their appropriate guardians. And I'm really kind of passionate about this because I've settled, over the course of the last 35 years, I've been involved in settling some 500 or 600 estates. And too many of those have involved people younger than we want to die, and they've involved leaving children behind without parents. All that sort of thing can be troublesome. And you may or may not know this, but the place to make those provisions is in a will. That's the place where you can name a next guardian for your children in the event that you are taken home to God too soon, sooner than we ever expected. And if you don't have a will, there's no good way to make that statement. You can't do it on a piece of paper. You can't do it by telling your best friend, I want you to do this. You just simply cannot. You need to have a will for that. And oftentimes, people say, well, I don't know who I'd trust to settle my estate. I encourage you to consider Busey Bank. Other banks often offer that service. But when you do that, and after you've met with, or before you've met with, your lawyer to draft up that will, the thing that is nice and free is that...
Talk to me.
You are a hard act to follow. The thing that is free is that if you name Busey Bank to be your executor or your successor executor, my sister Bridget agreed to do it, but what if she's not around? What if she's unavailable? The smart thing to do is name a corporate fiduciary, like Busey, to be the one that settles your estate. And if you draft that sort of thing up and you're not too familiar with what went on and you're not sure your lawyer did it quite right, come on in, bring your draft. I will review it, or one of our other appropriate folks who's skilled at that sort of thing will review it and explain it to you at considerable length, and it's free.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those things, you know, I'm putting it in a light manner, but I cannot tell you how many times those things happen. We don't want them to happen, but they do. Yeah. And so don't put off getting a will, having that checked, and put in that corporate fiduciary so that we can double check the language and make sure it's good to go.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that because as a pastor, right, I get the opportunity to be with people when they lose their loved ones, and oftentimes, because it is often unexpected, they're not 90, they're not 70, they're in their 50s or 40s. There's a lot of confusion about what do we do next, right? Who takes care of what, who's in charge, things of that nature. And the choice or not prioritizing planning in advance really causes what is normally a crisis and difficult moment to be more difficult. Just because we didn't take the time to plan. The reality is, you can look to your left and look to your right, everybody you see is going to die. That's the reality. I don't care how young you are. I don't care how good you look. I don't care what supplements you take, right? Everybody is going to die. So I appreciate the emphasis on doing what we can to prepare for that inevitable day when we are going to leave this earth, and making sure that some things are in order and being able to get guidance and support for that.
May I add one more thing?
Yes.
Lots of us are thrilled to death to get that taken care of. And we're so glad. They just hounded me about that, you know. And so, okay, I did it. And I put it in a drawer. And here's my admonition to you. Pull it out every now and then. And I don't mean every 6 or 10 years. Pull it out every few years, because, you know, things do change. Yeah. Family relationships change. Members of families die. Pull that out every now and then. Don't just throw it in a drawer and leave it there. It's a good thing to know that your planning is still in order.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Bridget and Tim, talk a little bit about, with your time in the bank, just pitfalls that you've seen. Things that people could do but didn't do or didn't know to do, just over the years as you worked with people. Maybe sometimes people came in too late, and you're like, oh, I wish you would have talked to us before you made that, right? So talk to us a little bit about that and how you work with people in that space.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit on it, worrying about too late. People often say, this isn't a problem right now. I don't need to worry about this right now. I'm not buying a house tomorrow, or I'm not retiring tomorrow. It's a future problem. For better or worse, you need to prepare for those items today, because saving up for a house, building your credit score, saving for retirement, those take years, decades. And so planning now for the future is the best way to solve any of those problems. Unfortunately, though, a lot of us, myself included, it's hard. So you want to push that off, right? I'd rather spend my money today going out to eat, buying new clothes. How much fun is putting money away in a 401k?
Right.
Not that fun. But it's important. And so I think it's just having the understanding of what you're doing really drives that importance.
Yeah, that's good.
A couple things I'll just touch on. I always say do a financial checkup. Financial checkups are so important. Why do I say that? I'll just touch a little bit about Mary talking about wills, and I think she'll just dive into a little bit about trust. One thing that I see a lot in the banks, when someone passes along, guess what? Nobody else is on their account with them. Their husbands are not on their account, their children are not on their account. And what do? They call the bank and go, well, my mom has money, we need that money. We need that money to pay for the funeral. We need that money to take care of the mortgage. But guess what the bank's gonna do? They're gonna freeze the account. It's frozen because there's no additional person on that account. What you need to do is do a financial checkup. Make sure you have someone that's on your account that's a payable on death. You have a beneficiary. You have a joint person on there with right of survivorship. Look into that, because it's really important, because you never know what's gonna happen. Maybe you get sick. Somebody needs to get into the account for you. Find someone that you can trust that can be on that account with you. That's very, very important. Financial checkup as well, your credit. Credit is so important. People don't think about it. Everybody runs your credit now. Your credit's being checked every day, either by your insurance company. Do you know that's how they drive up your premiums? They look at your credit. People don't realize that's how you get credit card promotions. Look at your credit. One thing I like to tell people, I know Credit Karma is free. It's not the best credit reporting agency, but it's good to know. Annualcreditreport.com. Check your credit. There's so much fraud out there. We see so much fraud every single day. I'm dealing with a fraud case. Someone's identity's been stolen. Someone's checks have been stolen. Someone's creating debit cards off of your account. Be diligent about looking at your checking accounts, your savings accounts, making sure. Because we always think, oh, it'll never happen to me until it happens to you. And one thing about debit cards, it's not always good to use debit cards. I always tell people to use credit cards if you can manage them. Because nowadays, when you're using debit cards, people are stealing your information. Your debit card is tied to your checking account. That is your money. It's hard to get that back. But when you have a credit card and you're using that, that credit card company is going to fight for you and get you your money back. Usually, most of the time, credit card companies protect you against fraud. So those are some things to think about as well.
No, that's good. Mary, can you talk to us a little bit just about trust?
How many of you have a trust? Just a quick show of hands.
All right. Got a few?
Not a lot, but not zero. Lots of folks are confused by trust, and I'll try to do a couple of quick things to eliminate some of that. I have a trust. It is called a revocable trust or a living trust or what have you. It is a construct that allows you to title your assets in your trust. You may want to put your residence in there. You may want to put some bank accounts titled in your trust. The more things that are in your trust, the fewer things that are going to be subject to probate. Probate is what happens when you die and things are listed in your name all by itself. I think of it as a heartbeat. If the title on the asset, your checking account, your savings account, what have you, is one person, one heartbeat, that may be subject to probate, and that can take longer than we want it to. Wills are important to be there for a whole lot of reasons, but remember, wills don't take effect until you die. Trusts, on the other hand, can help you manage your wealth, your finances, etc., throughout your lifetime. and they are far more easily changed than a will. If you make a change to a decision and you have most of your assets in trust, which is where most of mine are, and you say, I think I want to do something a little different about that, it's a matter of a simple amendment that can be done. Unlike with a will, if you want to change your will, it has to be, there may be a codicil or an amendment, rewritten. It has to be signed in the presence of two people who are present while it's being signed. So I would need to have both Bridget and Louisa in the room at the same time I signed it. They would have to sign it in the presence of each other. It all gets rather complicated to make those changes. Trusts are very handy if you're not familiar with revocable trusts or living trusts. I urge you to read, go to programs that describe them, talk to me about it while I'm eating pancakes. whatever works, all right? But they are definitely not as scary as we all thought they were before the last 20 years or so. And that's when revocable trusts, living trusts, really came into being in about the early 90s. They're a lot easier to get along with now than they were then.
Appreciate that. So as we prepare to wrap up, what final words, comments, feedback, suggestions would you like to give to our congregation, both in person and online? What would be the last thing you'll say in this context, because they're going to talk to you later, I'm sure. But in this context, what would be the last thing you would want to share with them?
Oh, the last thing. I had a whole list. But you know what? Listening to everyone, I feel compelled to stick with just one.
Yeah.
Is learning how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. We have to learn how to be uncomfortable. We have to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable talking about planning for transitioning.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable to really look at how our money ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
You know, like Tim has shared earlier, you know, we don't think about that instant. I'm going to take it even further. We don't think about how often we might go get a Polar Pop. You know, how often our kids might say, oh, can I just get this? $5 makes 20, makes 10, then 20, then 100. And the next thing you know, you don't know where it all went because you didn't really have that serious conversation. So when you're talking about that, it's going to be uncomfortable. But we have to lean into it.
Yeah.
We have to lean into it because we know that a higher power has us.
Yeah.
That God has us.
Yeah.
And He wants us to be successful and to follow His word.
Yeah.
And so while we're uncomfortable, knowing that He has us and we have these resources available in the community, wherever you may be, online, lean into it. Lean into your resources and lean into your faith.
That's good.
And that's what I would like to leave.
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good.
And go ahead, Mayor.
Would that I were so eloquent. Here's my last suggestion. Read. Read it again. Read it slowly. Read it at least twice. And the things I'm talking about are those boring-looking, dull, difficult articles that you see about trusts, retirement planning, will planning, etc. I read one yesterday, and I'm going to read it again. It's in the current issue of AARP magazine.
Love that
magazine. Really. And it's about 3 pages long. It is written for regular folks, not for people who've made a profession out of it. It's understandable, but even then, I tend to make myself read slowly and read it 2 or 3 times. Do one of those a week, from the articles that you see in magazines or those little magazines that you can pick up on your way out of the grocery store or wherever, in those little local things that talk about financial planning. You'll be amazed how much smarter and more comfortable you are about that in about 3 months. It really is doable.
Thank you.
And just to close for me, financial health checkup. As I mentioned, check your credit, check your budget, make sure everything is intact. I have these booklets that I'm going to be giving out in the back when we leave here. It's message for my loved ones. I may not have enough for the congregation today, but I have an order and I'll bring them back to the church. This book has everything that you can leave information for your loved ones. Put into your safe deposit boxes, put it into your vault. It has everything that you need to know that you can share with your loved ones. And one final thing, this is your resource. Use your resources. Use your connections. Sometimes it's all about who you know. And if you have the contacts in the bank, you can get things done. And that's what we're here for. Everything is confidential. If you want to have a meeting with us, set up meetings, get into the right people, I'll make sure we make that happen. That's why we're here today. You don't have to be a customer abusee, but we want to make sure we're giving back to you. So take that home with you today.
Thanks so much.
And I think I'll wrap up. I kind of identified an issue earlier, and I don't like to point out issues without also trying to at least give a solution.
Yeah.
And so, hinted at earlier how we are spending money unconsciously, not knowing. We think we do, but I think we really don't. And so I'd like to challenge kind of everybody here, myself included, that just over the next week, every time you spend money, write it down. Write down what you spent it on and how much you spent. That's it. And I promise you, after 7 days, when you look back at that list, you will say, my goodness, I did not realize how much I was spending on X, or how much I was spending out to eat, because it doesn't register with you. And I think, too, over the next week, I promise you, if you actually do it, the second thing will happen in that you will go to buy something, and you will think about it, and you will set it back down. I can promise you those two things.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Come on, let's give it up for the representatives from Busey. Come on, give it up for them. Amen. I'm going to allow them to take their seats. Thank you so much. Come on, give it up for them while they're taking their seats. Man, I am so honored, and I know, again, for many of you who came maybe for a traditional worship service, you're like, man, why would we do something like this at church? Scripture tells us that there is wisdom in the multitude of counselors. And that's all we had. We had this morning counselors, people who are experienced and committed to a particular role in educating people in the space of finances in a variety of areas. So for those of you who are like, man, I came for a sermon, let me share a few quotes, bring back the praise team, and then I'm looking forward to spending time with you as we eat pancakes together. So we've been talking about financial literacy. We'll continue. We have 2 more weeks in this series, and in talking about financial literacy, one of the things that I need to let you know, and Tim alluded to it, even though we want you to grow in financial literacy, we want you to read, we want you to listen, we want you to watch some things, it's important for us to understand that financial literacy alone does not change our behavior. I'll say that again. Financial literacy alone does not change our behavior. Actually, studies have been done, and based on those studies, they suggest that only 0.1% of our actual behavior changes based on financial literacy. Because typically, financial literacy is speaking about facts. But as Tim alluded to, many of our financial decisions are emotional. Another study has suggested that about 90% of a decision that we make financially is an emotional decision. which means that we have to look at what's underneath, what's at the root of why we're doing what we're doing. So some of you are familiar with comfort shopping. Like I was just down and, I just wanted to treat myself so I could feel better. That's emotional, right? Or sometimes like, man, I had this opportunity to do this, or they were going to match me putting money into a 401k, but I didn't know as much about it, so I allowed fear to cause me not to take action. That's emotional. So because many of our decisions are emotional, then I want to challenge us on this morning to make sure that we pay attention to our emotions, to pay attention to what's going on. If you sense something in your body where you tense up, kind of pay attention to it. Don't ignore it, but be able to say, okay, let me see what's going on, right? And then to label it, to be able to say, what's going on? Is that fear? Is that insecurity? Is that impatience? What's really going on? To be able to label it so that we might know how to address it or regulate it, to be able to make sure that we can respond appropriately. So I'm aware that I am anxious, but I'm not going to allow anxiety to get the best of me. Instead, I'm going to get at the root of what's causing me to be anxious. I'm going to anchor myself in my faith in God, and then I'm going to move forward to make the best decision that I can make. I want to end with this quote by Brent Weiss, certified financial planner. He says, if you don't change your mindset, how you think, your habits, what you do, your systems, how you do them, or your environment, what shapes your choices, all the information in the world won't lead to better financial outcomes. Please hear that today. If you don't change your mindset, how you think, your habits, what you do, your systems, how you do them, your environment, what shapes your choices, all the information in the world won't lead to better financial outcomes. And to anchor you in Scripture in Proverbs 27:7 simply says this: to the person who is full, even honey they won't accept, because they're already full, they're already satisfied. But to a person who is not full, they'll even eat bitter food and think it's good for them. And some of us have been in that space where you were so hungry, a cracker tastes like a steak. You're like, oh, this cracker's so good, it's so good. That's just because you're hungry, right? If you were satisfied, then it would just be a dry cracker. And I think the premise of the wisdom writer is simply this: we need to make sure that our ultimate satisfaction is found in Jesus the Christ. And when our ultimate satisfaction is found in Jesus the Christ, then I don't have to spend money and waste money and use money trying to cover up a whole bunch of other stuff, because I realize my ultimate satisfaction will only and always be found in Jesus the Christ. So as we conclude this morning and prepare to go eat some pancakes, I believe they're concluding with, I shall not want. That's it? All right. So here's the chorus, because sometimes we do a horrible job helping the praise team. Horrible. Sometimes we look at them like, sing, y'all. I'm not going to do anything, but sing, y'all. I'm not even going to smile, but sing, y'all. No, it's corporate worship. It's corporate worship, right? So, Tez, will you play what's the chord? I shall not want. I shall not want. Yep, trying to get it. Oh, my soul's got a shepherd in the valley, and I shall not want. I shall not want. I shall not want. 'Cause my cup's running over, and I shall not want. Can you say I shall not want? I shall not want. I shall not want.
I shall not want.
Oh, my soul's got a shepherd in the valley. Oh, my soul's got a shepherd in the valley, and I shall not want. Say, I shall not want.
I shall not want.
I shall not want.
I shall not want.
'Cause my cup's running over. 'Cause my cup's running over, and I
shall not want.
Now, when they get there, you got most of it. All right? So I just want you to lean in. You got the chorus. So when they get to that part, I want you to think about, because God is your shepherd. And he is a good, good shepherd. Then I want you to lean in and proclaim, I shall not want, right? Lean in like, that's not for me. Wanting is not for me. Why? Because my soul's got a shepherd, and I shall not want. So come on, let's worship together. Hey, it's Pastor Hub again. Man, I hope you were blessed by the conversation with the representatives from Busey Bank. We just finished up everything, and I'm excited about the nuggets that they dropped, the information that they made available to us in person and online. I pray for those of you who will watch and listen to it later, that you'll find it beneficial as well. Please make sure you like and subscribe, comment, share. We think it'll be a blessing not only to you, but to your family and your friends. So have a wonderful week as we live in love like Jesus.